Good morning. We're back in the garden. It's Dominic here and continuing the garden series. There was a few more points I wanted to share with you about putting staking up your plants like tomatoes, watering, fertilizing. Also, if you find any disease or bugs in your garden, what to do. So we'll start right away. In this corner there, I have tomatoes, and they're getting long, but they'll need support from a stake. So putting a stake on your tomatoes, like propping them with a branch. That's what I got today. And it's gonna guide your plant upwards, because otherwise your plant is gonna lie down on the ground. It's gonna be subjected to more critters and moisture. The leaves are gonna be in contact with the soil. It could be rotting, especially if it rains a lot. Also, when the fruit are gonna come, they're gonna be touching the ground, and there's more chance of insect coming and eating them at that point. And then you don't get to eat them because they damage and they don't look good. So that's one thing. So get yourself a stick. I want to poke it close to my stem, but not too close because I don't want to damage the root. I'm just going to put it in. I'll give you a close-up soon. This twist tie kind of thing from the dollar store. It's especially for tomatoes. I was surprised to see it there. That was a while ago. I don't know if they still have it. You cut it with either a pruner, or a hardy cutter plier, or a really strong pair of scissors. And I'm just gonna twist that around the stem, at the post and the stem, but I'm leaving a lot of space. So you see one point, I've got the stake, and the plant is leaning away from the stake. So now I'm gonna fix that. So you see, that's what it's look like. It's like a loose fitting. The stem is still free to grow bigger, and we'll be able, because there's a lot of turns into that ropey, twisty thing, it'll allow me to adjust when the plant grows thicker. The other thing you have to remember, we talked a little bit before about it, is the watering. Depending on how the weather is, like it rained last night, and you want to, when you check if the soil is moist enough, you just go a little bit deeper. This is actually still kind of dry, to my surprise. The top looks very wet, but underneath it's very sandy, so the water drains really quickly, not much retains the moisture. So it wouldn't hurt them to water the soil, not necessarily the plant itself, but the soil. And you do that, you keep on watching. Your soil is going to be different. If you can like form a clump and it holds on a clump, that probably gives you a good idea that there's enough moisture to keep that soil together, and you may not need to water it. But keep an eye, sometimes if it's really hot, it could be every day, every second day. If it's a little bit cooler, that will affect also. And if you have full sun or a little bit of shade part of the day, that will also affect the amount of watering you need to do. When you're sure your soil is moist enough, you might want to think about fertilizing. And that fertilizing only happens if you have poor soil, or if you have plants that we call heavy feeders, like tomatoes, cucumbers, squashes, peppers, something that are producing a fruit type of vegetable, and they'll need more nutrition than, let's say, peas and beans and carrots and lettuce. They don't need a whole lot of nutrition out of the soil. So if you started with fresh soil, like potting mix in your container or in your flowering bed, you probably won't need to fertilize for the season, because that usually lasts people like 3 to 4 months. It will be written on the package of the soil that you bought, but you still might want to fertilize, especially for the tomatoes. You will want to fertilize maybe once every week or every second week. And also, if you see that your plants are really struggling, the colors is off, the color is like the pale green instead of a vibrant green, you might decide to fertilize. That will also be a good sign that it needs some food. So this particular, I'm using a fertilizer. It's a liquid fertilizer. It's an organic one. This cost me about 11 bucks. Read the instruction for safety and for how to proceed. They'll tell you how much for water. And before you start fertilizing, like I said, my soil is is ready to be fertilized because it's moist already. I'm not gonna fertilize on the dry soil because it might burn the root or the foliage. So in this particular thing, I want like a cap full of liquid for 5 liters, and usually on your tank you'll have like this full tank is 7 liter, and I want 5 liters, which is half of this. So I will prepare a mixture of fertilizer, and I will do my tomatoes and my peppers. I have cucumber in this bed and tomatoes. That's it for fertilizing. Don't do it too often, no need to exaggerate. Keep an eye on for signs that may tell you that it needs more food. Even though we are going on to mid-June, it's still not too late to plant certain things. Like you could still plant lettuce, and actually lettuce, if you want to have a crop throughout the summer, you can plant it every 2 or 3 weeks, and you'll have, as the other one gets older, you have a fresh crop coming up. The thing that is not too late is carrots. You can still plant carrots because carrots are going to be harvested at late September, October, so there's plenty of time to grow. And there's certain things like spinach that prefers shorter and cooler days, that towards the end of like July would be another time. If you still have seeds and you have space in your garden, sow a little batch of spinach, so you'll have something fresh for later on, like in September. What we're going to look now is for signs of damage, disease, or pest in our plant. Sometimes we're looking at the leaves and there's something not quite right. So let's go around and see if something's going on with our plants. So this is one of the beds at the center. I have tomatoes and beans. Those are beans. I have one little cucumber, and I have some peas over there. The peas are looking good coloring. The beans though, if you look at the leaf here, you see the damage of that leaf? And I saw here and there, and that leaf there that's kind of curled up. You see that one over here curled up. That might indicate that actually beans are very fragile in some ways. Like if it's rained outside and people are working around the garden or touching the leaves, that might be creating those symptoms. So make sure if you have beans and it's wet outside after rain, do not go work in your beans. Let it dry completely before you go and walk in the garden, because it's going to damage the leaves. They might come back, they might not die from this, but that's one possibility. The other possibility is they might have lacked some watering at one point when it was really hot and dry. This is another bed at the center. It's like beautiful section over here that we're looking is rocket or arugula, which is a plant that we usually add to salads. It's what they call a pungent flavor. It's quite strong, peppery. It's not to everybody's taste, but I particularly like it because I like pungent tasting leaves. And this looks really good. I don't see anything wrong with it so far. But over here in the section, I noticed this morning, we have some greens that are being eaten by what we call a leaf miner. I'm going to go blow up to the leaf here. So you see the damage in these leaves here. It happens when a little egg hatches, and it's a little larva. The larva crawls inside the plant, eats the plant inside of it. Doesn't damage on the front and the back. It's just mining. That's why we call it a leaf miner. It's mining throughout the leaf and creating these damage. With something like that, like we have a whole bunch here, and the reason we have it here because there were some in the spinach with the next bed over that I harvested the spinach, and I've noticed there were some there, so they just came over. If you have this problem, take it, like right now is a little bit late the development was really fast. But the only thing you could do that is cut off the leaf that's damaged, in this case a lot of them, and would just throw them on the ground, and I'm just gonna step on it. That would hopefully squish out the bugs, any eggs, because the eggs, they lay their eggs underneath. There are those little white spots there. Don't look like much, but they're actually eggs. You see them more like eggs right now, eh? So what happens is one crop gets that leaf miner and it migrates to the next one, and the next one would be that beautiful arugula we have. It's gonna get affected sooner or later if we don't do anything. It could be that the arugula, for some reason, the bugs don't like it and they skip it, which would be nice for us. But actually the leaf miner completely skipped this lettuce, this beautiful green lettuce that we have in this bed, and didn't damage also the radishes. So, and now that I think about it, spinach and beets are of the same family of plants. They have similar leaves. So maybe the leaf miner only affects that. So these are all things that you get to learn when you look at your garden. Over here we have more tomatoes, and you can see that these tomatoes have no stakes, so we'll have to get on to that because they're getting big and they're starting to flop a little bit. So before they get too big, we want to stake those up. This was a little tour of the garden, and we've covered today in this video staking the plants, watering, fertilizing, looking for pests. I hope you learned something, and please let us know if you have any gardening project this summer. Did you start anything? Do you have any questions? Maybe you also have like a bug eating your plants and you'd like to know, have some help with identifying and see if we can help with that. I just now shooed away some squirrels that they think it's their gardens, and maybe they are actually doing a lot of, sorry, so mean.